There are moments in life when a shadow moves where no shadow should be, a feeling in the pit of your stomach, an unease that settles in your spirit, a whisper so quiet yet so persistent that you cannot ignore it. You may have told yourself it was nothing, that you were overthinking, that love demands trust, that family should always be given the benefit of the doubt. But what if that very doubt was not yours alone? What if it was placed there by God Himself, a divine warning that something, someone is not what they seem? God is not a God of confusion, but of clarity. He does not delight in division, but He also does not allow deception to remain hidden forever. In His mercy, He warns His children when danger lurks, even when that danger wears a familiar face. Many people believe that the greatest threats come from the outside, from enemies who openly declare their intentions. But the most painful wounds are not inflicted by strangers. They are inflicted by those we once held dear, by those who have sat at our table, laughed in our presence, and spoken words of love while secretly plotting destruction. Perhaps you have felt it, that subtle but undeniable tension when they walk into the room. The way their words feel like barbed wires wrapped in silk, carefully constructed to sound supportive, but laced with venom. The way they celebrate your failures more than your victories, their smiles never quite reaching their eyes. Maybe you have found yourself questioning your own intuition, wondering if you are imagining things, if you are being unkind by suspecting them. But let me ask you, why does your spirit recoil at their presence? Why do your prayers feel heavier when their name crosses your lips? Could it be that the Holy Spirit is warning you, urging you to see what you have long refused to acknowledge? The Bible is filled with stories of betrayal hidden beneath the veil of kinship. Joseph was betrayed not by foreigners but by his own brothers. Cain, consumed by jealousy, rose up against Abel, his own flesh and blood. Even our Lord Jesus Christ was betrayed, not by a stranger, but by one of His own disciples, a man who walked with Him, dined with Him, and called Him Teacher. Betrayal is not new, and it is not always obvious in the beginning, but God, in His great love, reveals the truth in His perfect timing. Have you ever noticed that when you begin to seek God more deeply, some people in your life begin to resist you? That when you draw closer to His presence, certain relationships start to feel strained? This is no accident. When light exposes darkness, those who operate in deception will not rejoice, they will resent. They will seek to pull you back, to manipulate your emotions, to make you feel as though you are the one who has changed, when in reality, it is their true nature that is being brought to light. But do not be deceived. God is not mocked. He sees what you cannot. He knows the thoughts of their heart, the words they have spoken in secret, the intentions they have carefully concealed. And because He loves you, He will not allow you to walk blindly into destruction. He will send warnings, small at first, a discomfort in your spirit, a conversation that does not sit right, an action that contradicts their words. If you ignore these, the warnings will grow louder, more undeniable. But what you do with these warnings is up to you. Many people stay in toxic relationships, not because they are blind, but because they refuse to see, because the truth is painful, because to acknowledge it means to make difficult decisions, to set boundaries, to walk away from those who should have protected you, but instead sought to harm you. And the enemy whispers in your ear, telling you that to distance yourself is unchristian, that forgiveness means allowing them back into your life without question. But let me remind you, Jesus forgave Judas, but He did not entrust Himself to him. Forgiveness is not the same as access. Love is not the same as blind loyalty. God does not call you to be a prisoner of manipulation simply because the manipulator is family. There are some people in your life who are not there by divine appointment, but by enemy infiltration. People who drain you spiritually, who distort truth, who plant seeds of doubt and insecurity. And you must ask yourself, why do you keep allowing them access to your heart? God does not require you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. He does not call you to remain entangled with those who consistently choose deceit over truth. If He is showing you the signs, if He is allowing you to see the cracks in their disguise, it is because He is leading you to freedom. The time has come to stop ignoring what God has been trying to show you. The time has come to seek His wisdom, to trust that His warnings are not to punish you, but to protect you. Because when God exposes the truth, it is not to destroy you, it is to deliver you. And so, how do you recognize when God is warning you about a family member's hidden agenda? How do you know when the unease in your spirit is divine caution and not mere paranoia? You feel an unshakable sense of unease around them. There is a stirring in your soul that you cannot shake, an unease that rises whenever they enter the room. It is not born of fear, nor is it simple anxiety. It is something deeper, something spiritual, a divine signal placed within you, alerting you that something is not as it seems. God has given you discernment, a gift not to be dismissed. He does not leave His children blind to the dangers that lurk in the shadows, especially when those dangers come wrapped in the disguise of family. When the Holy Spirit dwells within you, He serves as your guide, your protector, your divine warning system. And yet, so often we dismiss these warnings. We tell ourselves we are being irrational, that we must be imagining things. After all, how can we suspect someone so close to us? But has not God already shown us, time and time again, that the greatest betrayals come not from strangers, but from those who walk among us? Did not David feel the sting of betrayal from those he once called brothers? Was not Jesus betrayed by one of His own disciples, a man who sat at His table, who dipped His bread in the same bowl? This discomfort in your spirit is not a mistake. It is a revelation. It is God speaking to you in a way that transcends words, urging you to pay attention. When you are around them, something feels off. Their words may be sweet, their smiles may be kind, but there is a weight in the air, a pressure on your soul that you cannot explain. That is not paranoia, that is not overthinking. That is the Spirit of God pressing against you, calling you to open your eyes. There is a reason you feel peace when you are around the people God has truly sent into your life. There is a reason certain relationships strengthen your faith, while others leave you feeling drained and confused. God is not the author of confusion, 1 Corinthians 14:33. And where there is deception, there is disorder. You may not be able to point to a specific offense. They may not have openly betrayed you yet, but your spirit knows what your eyes cannot yet see. God is revealing something to you, something He does not want you to ignore. Think of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. He did not attack Eve with violence. He did not raise his voice or strike fear into her heart. No, he was subtle. He spoke in smooth words, gently sowing doubt, leading her away from truth with deception wrapped in silk. And this is how deception often comes to us, not as an obvious enemy, but as something familiar, something comfortable, something that does not seem dangerous at first glance, but the Spirit within you knows better. Have you ever noticed how, after spending time with them, you feel different? Perhaps you were filled with joy before they arrived, but by the time they leave, you feel discouraged, uncertain, weighed down by an invisible burden. You find yourself questioning things you were once sure of. You replay conversations trying to decipher the hidden meanings behind their words. This is not what love feels like. This is not what healthy relationships feel like. And most importantly, this is not what God-ordained connections feel like. The enemy works through deception, and one of his greatest tricks is placing people in your life who appear harmless, even loving, but whose presence slowly chips away at your peace. The Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 11:14 that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. If Satan disguises himself, do you not think he will also use people to do the same? Do you not think that he will send individuals into your life who pretend to have good intentions while secretly working against you? This is why it is so important to listen to the Spirit within you. When you feel that unshakable sense of unease, do not dismiss it. Do not let guilt or obligation convince you to ignore what God is revealing. He is protecting you from something you cannot yet see, from a trap that has not yet been sprung. Think of how many people in Scripture ignored the warnings of God, only to later realize the truth when it was too late. Delilah did not betray Samson all at once. She weakened him over time. Judas did not betray Jesus overnight. He carried deceit in his heart long before the silver touched his hands. Deception is often slow, methodical, and difficult to detect until the damage has already been done. But God, in His mercy, always sends a warning before the storm. So ask yourself, why do you feel uneasy in their presence? Why does your spirit recoil when they speak? Why does peace seem to flee the moment they enter the room? Do not silence these questions. Do not drown them out with excuses. Instead, bring them before God. Ask Him to reveal what He wants you to see. Because when God speaks, He does not waste words. When He warns, it is because danger is near. And if He has placed this sense of unease in your spirit, it is not to make you fearful. It is to make you aware. Their words do not match their actions. Words can be powerful, but they can also be deceiving. A person can stand before you and speak of love, loyalty, and righteousness while their heart harbors something entirely different. This is the mark of deception, when words and actions do not align. God has warned us about such people, those who honor with their lips, but whose hearts are far from the truth. Matthew 15:8. And when this pattern emerges in your life, when a family member's words sound sweet, yet their actions leave you wounded, it is not something to overlook. It is a warning. There is nothing more dangerous than a person whose words are filled with falsehoods disguised as sincerity. The serpent in the garden spoke with wisdom, yet his intent was destruction. Judas kissed Jesus, a gesture of love, yet it was the signal of betrayal. Actions reveal what words try to conceal. And when God is showing you that someone's words do not match their deeds, He is pulling back the veil, urging you to see the truth that lies beneath their carefully constructed facade. At first, their words may sound comforting. They promise support, they vow to stand by you, they tell you what you want to hear. But then when the time comes to act, where are they? When you need them, they are absent. When you trust them, they betray. When you seek their counsel, their advice leaves you worse off than before, and each time you convince yourself that it was just a mistake, that surely they did not mean to hurt you, but deep in your spirit you know better. A pattern is emerging, one that cannot be ignored. The Bible tells us, "By their fruits you will know them." Matthew 7:16. A tree may look beautiful on the outside, but if its fruit is bitter, its roots are poisoned. A person may say all the right things, but if their actions consistently contradict their words, then their heart is not pure. The fruit of a person's life, their actions, their choices, the way they treat others, will always reveal the truth. And when God is showing you the fruit of someone's actions, you must not allow their words to deceive you. Perhaps they say they love you, but love is not just a word, it is an action. Love does not manipulate. Love does not betray. Love does not wound under the guise of kindness. The love God teaches us is patient and kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, and it keeps no record of wrongs. 1 Corinthians 13:04-5. So when someone claims to love you, yet their actions sow pain, division, and confusion, what they offer is not love, It is deception. Perhaps they claim to support you, but when you succeed, their support is nowhere to be found. They congratulate you with their mouths, yet their hearts are filled with resentment. Their words are smooth, but their actions expose their envy. And when you stumble, when you go through hardship, that is when their true nature is revealed. Instead of lifting you up, they take advantage of your weakness. Instead of praying for you, they gossip about you. Instead of showing you grace, they revel in your struggles. A person's words may deceive for a season, but their actions will always bring the truth to light. You may have spent years believing what they told you, trusting their reassurances, convincing yourself that they truly meant well. But God is not mocked. He sees what is spoken in secret. He knows the intentions of the heart. And if He is showing you that their actions do not align with their words, He is not doing so to bring confusion. He is doing so to bring clarity. Think of how many people in the Bible were deceived by words. Eve was deceived because the serpent's words sounded wise. The Israelites were deceived because false prophets spoke what they wanted to hear rather than what they needed to hear. And even today, so many remain in toxic relationships, not because they cannot see the truth, but because they have allowed themselves to believe lies wrapped in beautiful words. God warns us in Proverbs 26:23, "Smooth words may hide a wicked heart, just as a pretty glaze covers a clay pot." Some people know how to say the right things, but beneath their words lies manipulation, selfishness, and deceit. They do not care about truth, they care about maintaining control. They do not care about you, they care about keeping you blind to their true nature. And every time you give them another chance, every time you overlook their contradictions, you allow them to pull you further into their web of deception. But God is merciful. He does not allow His children to be deceived indefinitely. He will send signs. He will create moments where the truth becomes undeniable. He will allow you to see the cracks in their disguise, to catch glimpses of their true intentions. And once He reveals these things, He expects you to listen. Because when a person's words and actions do not align, the truth is not found in what they say, it is found in what they do. If you are constantly having to explain away their behavior, if you find yourself making excuses for why they do not follow through, if you feel deep in your spirit that something does not add up, do not ignore that voice. Do not allow guilt or obligation to cloud your judgment. God is speaking, and He is calling you to see beyond what they say, to see what they show you, because their actions tell the real story. 3. They seem to delight in your failures. There is a particular kind of darkness that does not strike openly, does not raise a hand in violence, does not speak words of hatred, yet wounds just as deeply. It is the darkness that hides in the shadows of false smiles, in the carefully disguised envy of those who claim to love you. It is the kind of evil that does not attack you outright, but watches and waits, secretly rejoicing in your downfall. And perhaps the most painful realization of all is that this darkness does not always come from strangers. It comes from those closest to you. When you succeed, when you rise, when God begins to bless you, something in them shifts. They force a smile, they say the right words, but beneath the surface there is resentment. They offer congratulations, but it feels hollow, as if they are merely enduring your joy rather than sharing in it. You can feel it in the way they speak to you afterward, in the way their attitude subtly changes, in the way their presence suddenly becomes heavy. And when you stumble, when you falter, when you go through hardship, it is as if a weight is lifted from their shoulders. This is not love. This is not family. This is not what God intended for the people He placed in your life. The Bible says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn." Romans 12:15. Love does not resent the blessings of others. Love does not take pleasure in the struggles of another. But a jealous heart is a dangerous thing. It is the same jealousy that led Cain to murder Abel when Abel's offering was accepted by God, Genesis 4:04. It is the same jealousy that led Joseph's brothers to sell him into slavery when they saw the favor God had placed upon him, Genesis 37 verse 11, 18 verse 28. And it is the same jealousy that can dwell within the hearts of those closest to you, hidden beneath the surface, poisoning every interaction. Pay attention to how they respond to your victories. Do they celebrate with you genuinely? Or do they offer lukewarm words, followed by an immediate change in attitude? Do they suddenly become distant, uncomfortable, or critical? Are they quick to downplay your success, to shift the focus back to themselves, to remind you of your weaknesses rather than acknowledge your strengths? These are not mere coincidences. These are warning signs. God does not want you to be surrounded by those who secretly desire your downfall. He does not want you to share your dreams with those who inwardly hope for your failure. Remember Joseph. He shared his dreams with his brothers, believing they would understand, believing they would rejoice with him. But instead, they despised him for it. They could not bear to see him favored, could not stand the thought of him rising above them, and so they sought to destroy him. And what of Jesus? He walked with Jesus, listened to his teachings, saw his miracles firsthand, and yet, while he called Jesus teacher with his lips, his heart was filled with betrayal. Not because Jesus had wronged him, but because Judas saw something in Jesus that he could never possess himself. Some people are not angry at you because of what you have done to them. They are angry because of what God is doing in you. And when the moment of hardship comes, when you face failure, when you struggle, when life becomes difficult, watch how they react. Do they rush to your side, offering support, lifting you up in prayer, or do they seem relieved, as if your fall has somehow restored their sense of superiority, as if your struggle has given them a quiet satisfaction? You will notice it in their words, in their tone, in the way they carry themselves around you. Suddenly they seem lighter, almost energized, as though your pain has brought them comfort. The Bible warns us about such people. Do not gloat when your enemy falls. When they stumble, do not let your heart rejoice. Proverbs 24:17. But what happens when it is not your enemy who rejoices? What happens when it is your own family? What happens when the people who should love you most are the ones silently hoping for your downfall? God is showing you something. He is revealing the true nature of their heart. Because love does not take pleasure in the misfortune of others. Love does not measure itself against the success or failure of another. True love, godly love, is not threatened by your victories, nor does it rejoice in your suffering. Some people only feel secure when you are beneath them. They only feel comfortable when they believe they have something over you. But the moment you begin to step into your calling, the moment you start walking in God's favor, they no longer see you as family. They see you as competition. And they may never admit it, but their actions reveal the truth. So ask yourself, who rejoices when I rise? Who mourns when I fall? Who loves me without conditions, without envy, without hidden resentment? These are the questions God is calling you to ask, because when He begins to elevate you, not everyone will be happy about it. And when He reveals the truth about those who secretly delight in your struggles, He is not doing so to bring you pain, He is doing so to protect you. They manipulate through guilt and obligation. There are chains that do not bind the hands, but they enslave the soul. There are prisons with no walls, yet they hold you captive, keeping you from walking in the freedom God intended for you. These are the chains of manipulation, the prison of guilt and obligation. And sometimes the ones who tighten these chains around you are not enemies from afar, but family members who claim to love you. They do not use force, nor do they need to. Their power lies in the weight of their words, the way they twist your love for them into a weapon against you. They remind you of all they have done for you, all they have sacrificed, and they make you feel as if you owe them something in return, not out of love, not out of genuine relationship, but out of duty, an unspoken debt you can never fully repay. But love that demands repayment is not love, it is control. And God does not operate in control, He operates in freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, 2 Corinthians 3:17. If a person truly loves you, they will give freely, expecting nothing in return. If their kindness comes with conditions, if their generosity comes with strings attached, then it is not kindness at all. It is manipulation disguised as love. Perhaps you have felt it, the weight of their expectations pressing down on you. The feeling that no matter what you do, it will never be enough. They remind you of how they raised you, how they provided for you, how they sacrificed for you. And while gratitude is good, while honor is biblical, these things should never be used as chains to bind your will. A parent should provide for their child out of love, not as a way to control them in adulthood. A sibling should stand by your side because they care, not because they expect something in return. Love gives freely, but manipulation keeps a record of every favor, every deed, waiting for the day it can be used against you. And when you try to set boundaries, when you try to pull away, what happens? They do not accept it. Instead, they remind you of how much they have done for you, as if your love must now be measured in obedience. They say things like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? If you really cared about me, you would do this for me. You're being selfish. Family is supposed to sacrifice for each other." Do you hear it? The twisting of love into a weapon, the reshaping of obligation into control. They do not ask, they demand. They do not love freely, they love with conditions. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to bend under the weight of their words. You sacrifice your own happiness to please them. You suppress your own needs to avoid their disappointment. You find yourself walking on eggshells, trying not to upset them, trying to meet their unspoken expectations, but no matter how much you give, it is never enough. Jesus himself warned of this kind of manipulation when he rebuked the Pharisees for laying heavy burdens on the shoulders of others while refusing to lift a finger to help, Matthew 23:04. God did not create you to live under the weight of someone else's expectations. He did not place you in this world to be a servant to another's selfish desires. Honor your family, yes, but honor does not mean enslavement. Love them, yes, but love is not the same as submission to manipulation. Think of the story of Samson and Delilah, Judges 16:15-17. Delilah did not force Samson to give up his secret. She manipulated him. She wept. She guilted him. She made him feel as if he truly loved her, he would do as she asked. And what happened? He gave in. He surrendered, not because he wanted to, but because he was made to feel as though he had no choice. And in the end, he lost his strength. He lost his freedom. This is what manipulation does. It weakens you. It drains your spirit. It makes you believe that you are wrong for wanting boundaries, that you are selfish for wanting space, that you are ungrateful for choosing your own path. But this is not the voice of God. God does not manipulate, He invites. God does not demand, He calls. And if someone is trying to control you through guilt and obligation, understand that this is not love, this is spiritual bondage. Ask yourself, do I feel drained after every interaction with them? Do I feel like I can never say no without guilt? Do I feel like I must constantly prove my love through obedience? If the answer is yes, then God is showing you something. He is revealing the hidden chains, the invisible prison they have tried to place around you. And once he reveals it, he is calling you to step into freedom. Because love, true godly love, does not bind, does not guilt, does not manipulate, it does not demand, it gives, it nurtures, and most importantly, it sets free. You catch them in lies, big or small. Deception is one of the oldest weapons of darkness. It was a lie that led to the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3:4-5. It was a lie that led Judas to betray Jesus, Luke 22:3-6. And it is lies, both great and small, that weave the web of manipulation, confusion, and destruction in your life. A person who hides the truth is a person who hides their true intentions. And when God begins to reveal their deception, He is not just exposing them, He is protecting you. There is something unsettling about catching someone in a lie. Even when it seems small, even when they brush it off as insignificant, something deep within your spirit stirs. It is as if a veil has been lifted, if only for a moment, and you have glimpsed something you were not meant to see. A crack in their carefully crafted facade, a flaw in the mask they wear so well. And in that moment, you are faced with a choice. Do you dismiss it? Do you excuse it? Or do you recognize it for what it truly is, a warning from God? The Bible warns us that deceit is a characteristic of the wicked. The Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in people who are trustworthy. Proverbs 12:22. Yet some people lie so easily, so frequently, that it has become their nature. They lie about things that do not even matter, twisting reality to suit their own agenda. At first, their lies may seem harmless, exaggerations, half-truths, convenient omissions, but over time, you begin to notice a pattern. Their stories change, their words do not match their actions. They contradict themselves without even realizing it, and the moment you begin to question them, they become defensive. They turn the blame back on you, making you feel guilty for even doubting them. This is not simply dishonesty, it is spiritual deception. It is the same spirit that slithered into the garden, whispering, "Did God really say?" Genesis 3:01. It plants doubt, it distorts reality, it makes you question what you know to be true, and if you are not careful, you will find yourself entangled in their falsehoods, struggling to discern what is real and what is manipulation. But God has given you discernment. He has given you a spirit of wisdom, not confusion. 1 Corinthians 14:33. And when He allows you to catch someone in a lie, it is not an accident, it is a divine revelation. He is showing you that this person cannot be trusted. He is warning you that the foundation of your relationship with them is not built on truth, but on deception. And the danger of deception is this: if someone is willing to lie about small things, what else are they hiding? What other secrets are buried beneath their words? The Pharisees, who claimed to be righteous, were called out by Jesus as whitewashed tombs, Matthew 23:27. Beautiful on the outside, but full of death within. They presented themselves as holy, but their hearts were full of corruption. This is the nature of a deceiver. They put on a show of kindness, of loyalty, of love, but behind the scenes they are plotting, scheming, hiding their true selves. Have you ever confronted them with the truth? Have you ever called them out on their contradictions? If you have, then you know what happens next. They do not confess. They do not repent. Instead, they twist the situation back on you. They make you feel as if you misunderstood, as if you are the problem for questioning them. This is called gaslighting, a psychological manipulation designed to make you doubt your own reality, and it is one of the enemy's most insidious tactics. The Bible tells us, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy," John 10:10. And what does a liar steal? They steal trust. They steal peace. They steal the security of knowing that the people closest to you are genuine. A liar will always expect loyalty, but never return it. They will demand your trust while proving time and time again that they are unworthy of it, and yet they will disguise themselves as family, as a friend, as someone who has your best interests at heart. So what does God say about such people? He says to have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5:11. He says that a false witness will not go unpunished, and whoever pours out lies will perish. Proverbs 19 verses 9. He reminds us that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11 verse. The enemy does not come with horns and a pitchfork, he comes dressed as a friend, as a family member, as someone you think you can trust. But if their words are full of deceit, if their actions do not align with the truth, then God is showing you who they really are. Ask yourself, how many times have I caught them in a lie? How many times have they made me feel guilty for questioning them? How many times have I ignored the warning signs, hoping things would change? Because here is the truth. A person who lies repeatedly is not making a mistake, they are making a choice. And when God reveals their deception, He is not asking you to fix them. He is asking you to see them for who they are. This is His warning. This is His way of telling you that you are dealing with someone who is not walking in truth, someone whose heart is not aligned with Him. And where there is no truth, there is no foundation, there is no relationship, there is no trust. There is only deception. They drain you emotionally and spiritually. There are people in your life who do not come to pour into you but to take from you. They do not come to strengthen you but to weaken you. Their presence is not a source of peace but a source of exhaustion. And the most dangerous part, they often disguise themselves as loved ones. At first, you do not notice it. The weight they place on your shoulders is gradual, subtle, but over time you begin to feel it. The heaviness that lingers after every conversation, the spiritual fatigue that follows every interaction. You walk away from them feeling empty, as if something inside of you has been taken. And that is because something has. There are people whose words carry no life, whose spirits are like dry wells, constantly drawing from others without ever offering refreshment in return. And if you have someone in your life who leaves you feeling drained, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, God is revealing something to you. He is showing you that this person is not a source of edification, but of depletion. The Bible warns us about such people. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. A person who drains you spiritually does not have to be openly evil. They do not have to curse God or despise righteousness. Sometimes they simply come wrapped in need, in endless demands, in constant negativity. They are never satisfied, never at peace, never content. And no matter how much of yourself you give to them, it is never enough. Have you ever noticed how after spending time with certain people, you feel spiritually weaker? You feel as if your faith has been tested, your peace disrupted, your joy diminished? That is not a coincidence. That is a spiritual transaction happening beneath the surface. These people take and take, and the more you pour into them, the emptier you become. Even Jesus, though he was fully God, understood the importance of protecting his spirit from being drained. After ministering to the multitudes, he withdrew to be alone with the Father. Luke 5:16. Why? Because pouring into others without being replenished leads to exhaustion. And if even the Son of God needed moments of restoration, how much more do you? But the ones who drain you do not care about your restoration. They do not care about your well-being. They will take as much as you give until you have nothing left. They will leave you feeling as if you are carrying a weight too heavy for you to bear. And what does the Bible say about burdens? Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. But these people do not bring rest. They bring more burdens. You may have tried to help them. You may have prayed for them, encouraged them, carried their struggles on your shoulders, but instead of lifting them up, you find yourself being pulled down. Their problems become your problems. Their negativity becomes your burden. Their spiritual dryness begins to seep into your own walk with God. And when you finally reach a point of exhaustion, when you try to step back to protect your peace, what happens? They do not understand. They call you selfish. They make you feel guilty. They accuse you of abandoning them. Because they were never interested in a mutual relationship, they only cared about what they could take from you. This is why discernment is crucial. Not everyone in your life is meant to stay. Not everyone who claims to need you truly needs you. Some are there to use you. And when God begins to show you the pattern, when He reveals to you that a person is not contributing to your spiritual growth, but is instead draining you, that is His warning. That is Him saying, "This is not of me." Remember, even the strongest warriors grow weary if they are constantly surrounded by those who take without giving. Even Moses, a man chosen by God, grew exhausted carrying the burdens of the people, and it took wise counsel from Jethro to tell him, "What you are doing is not good. You will only wear yourself out." Exodus 18:17-18. So ask yourself, do I feel exhausted after every conversation with them? Do they constantly take from me without ever giving back? Does my spirit feel burdened every time they reach out to me? If the answer is yes, then this is not just emotional exhaustion, it is spiritual depletion. And when God warns you, it is not to punish you, it is to protect you. Because the people God sends into your life will sharpen you, not weaken you. They will build you up, not drain you. They will speak life into you, not deplete you. And when someone is doing the opposite, when they are robbing you of your joy, your peace, your spiritual strength, then you must recognize the truth. This is not love. This is a warning. They dismiss your concerns and twist reality. One of the clearest signs that God is warning you about a person is when they constantly dismiss your concerns and twist reality to serve their own agenda. It is an insidious form of manipulation, one that leaves you questioning your own judgment, your own feelings, and even your own faith. These people are not just careless with the truth. They reshape it, distort it, and use it against you to maintain control. You approach them with honesty, voicing your concerns, hoping for clarity, but instead of listening, they turn the conversation against you. They call you too sensitive. They make you feel as though you are imagining things. They tell you that you are the problem, that you are overreacting, that your feelings are invalid. Slowly, subtly, they begin to rewrite the past. What was once clear to you becomes muddled with doubt, and this is not by accident, it is by design. This is a form of deception deeply rooted in the enemy's tactics. From the beginning of time, Satan's greatest weapon has been twisting truth. In the Garden of Eden, he did not outright reject God's word. He distorted it, manipulated it, and planted seeds of doubt in Eve's mind. Did God really say, and in that moment, deception was born. The people who dismiss your concerns do the very same thing. They take what you know to be true and reshape it, making you question whether you even have the right to feel the way you do. And over time, you begin to second-guess yourself. You hesitate to bring things up. You suppress your feelings to keep the peace. You convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, "You are wrong." But God does not operate in confusion, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. When someone continually twists reality and dismisses your concerns, they are not walking in the spirit of truth. They are walking in the spirit of deception. Have you ever noticed how they never take accountability? How no matter what happens, they always have a way of making you feel like the guilty one? That is because they are not interested in resolving conflict. They are interested in control. And the best way to control someone is to make them doubt themselves. But what does God say about those who reject correction? Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. Proverbs 12:01. A person who is truly walking with God will be open to self-reflection. They will listen when confronted. They will seek truth even when it is uncomfortable. But a person who twists reality, who refuses to acknowledge their wrongdoing, who shifts blame onto others, they are revealing something about their heart. And here is the dangerous part. If you remain in their presence for too long, you will start to lose yourself. You will start to silence your own discernment. You will begin to doubt the very warnings God is placing in your spirit. And this is exactly what the enemy wants, to keep you entangled in confusion so that you do not see the truth. But God has given you the spirit of discernment for a reason. But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. Hebrews 5:14. That unease you feel, that exhaustion, that sense that something is not right, that is God speaking to you. That is Him showing you that this person does not belong in your life. And you must ask yourself, how many times have they dismissed my feelings, making me question my own reality? How many times have they twisted the truth to avoid accountability? How many times have I felt spiritually drained after trying to communicate with them? Because here is the truth. A person who loves you will hear you. A person who values truth will seek it. And a person who walks with God will not feel the need to manipulate reality to protect themselves. If someone is twisting the truth, dismissing your concerns and making you question your own discernment, then that is not love. That is a warning. There is a reason the enemy is called the father of lies, John 8:44. Deception is his most dangerous weapon, and those who operate under his influence will use it to keep you trapped. When someone dismisses your concerns and twists reality, they are not just being difficult. They are actively trying to distort the truth so that they can maintain control over you. And God is warning you to see it for what it is. At first it may seem like small things. You bring up how their words hurt you and they laugh it off, telling you that you're too sensitive. You try to hold them accountable and they accuse you of overreacting. You express your genuine feelings and they turn it back on you, making you feel guilty for even bringing it up. But over time, something dangerous happens. You stop trusting yourself. This is what manipulation does. It makes you doubt what you saw with your own eyes, what you felt in your own heart. And once someone has made you question your own reality, they can control you completely. This is how spiritual strongholds are built. Not through force, but through confusion. God is not the author of confusion, 1 Corinthians 14:33, but the enemy thrives in it. He wants you to live in a fog, unable to see clearly, unable to trust your discernment, unable to recognize the truth that God is showing you. But when God gives you a warning, He does not expect you to ignore it. He expects you to act on it. When someone constantly dismisses your concerns, you must ask yourself, why do they refuse to listen when I express my feelings? Why do they always make me feel like I'm the problem? Why do I feel more confused after talking to them instead of more at peace? Because here is the truth. Someone who truly loves you will care about your concerns. They will not dismiss your emotions as invalid. They will not twist your words to make themselves look like the victim. They will not manipulate reality to suit their own agenda. But a person with a hidden motive will always protect their image over your well-being. They will gaslight you, making you believe that what happened did not happen, or that it wasn't as bad as you remember. They will rewrite history, telling you that the past was different from how you recall it. They will accuse you of being too emotional, too dramatic, too irrational, anything to make sure that you doubt yourself instead of seeing the truth about them. But God is clear. The Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in people who are trustworthy. Proverbs 12:22. Those who twist reality to deceive others are walking in darkness, and their actions reveal the true state of their hearts. This kind of deception is spiritual warfare. The enemy does not need to destroy you physically if he can keep you confused mentally and emotionally. He does not need to force you into bondage if he can manipulate you into staying there willingly. But God has already given you the power to break free. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. The moment you recognize manipulation for what it is, its power over you begins to break. The moment you acknowledge that someone is twisting reality to control you, you take back the authority that God has given you. And that is exactly what the enemy does not want. He wants you to remain unsure, questioning, second-guessing yourself until you no longer know what is real and what is not. He wants you to stay entangled in toxic relationships, unable to see the damage they are doing to your spirit. But God wants you to see clearly. He wants you to trust the discernment He has placed in your heart. He wants you to recognize the signs He has been giving you all along. Because here is the most dangerous part. If you stay around someone who twists reality for too long, you will begin to lose sight of what is true. You will start justifying their behavior. You will start questioning your own emotions. You will start thinking that maybe, just maybe, you are the problem. But you are not the problem. The problem is the deception. The problem is the manipulation. The problem is the spiritual darkness that is trying to keep you bound. And this is why God is warning you. The moment someone dismisses your concerns and twists reality, they are revealing their true nature. They are showing you that they do not value truth, that they are more concerned with control than connection, that they are more invested in keeping power over you than in loving you honestly. And you must ask yourself, if this person cannot even acknowledge my feelings, if they refuse to hear me, if they twist reality to suit their own agenda, why am I still allowing them access to my life? God calls us to walk in truth, and the longer you remain connected to someone who manipulates, the further you drift from the clarity He wants to give you. But the moment you recognize the truth, the moment you see through the deception, the moment you finally acknowledge that God has been trying to warn you, everything changes. Because God is not just revealing the deception, He is giving you a way out. He is calling you to step away from what is harming you. He is reminding you that you do not have to stay entangled in someone else's lies. You have the power to choose truth. You have the power to walk away. You have the power to embrace the clarity that God is offering you. The question is, will you take it? When God warns you about someone, it is not to make you fearful. It is to make you wise. It is His love protecting you from unseen dangers, from spiritual traps, from relationships that drain your soul instead of nourishing it. Every sign He gives you is a call to wake up, to open your eyes to recognize what He has been trying to show you all along. If you feel an unshakable sense of unease around someone, that is not paranoia, that is discernment. If their words do not match their actions, it is not a misunderstanding, it is deception. If they delight in your failures, they are not family in spirit, no matter what title they hold. If they manipulate you through guilt, they do not love you, they control you. If they lie, whether big or small, it is a sign of a deeper darkness within them. If they drain you emotionally and spiritually, they are not from God, because His people uplift, not deplete. And if they dismiss your concerns and twist reality, they are not walking in truth, but in manipulation. God does not place people in your life to confuse you, to break you, or to steal your peace. He places people in your life to sharpen you, to love you, to walk with you in righteousness. The enemy, on the other hand, will send people who masquerade as family, as friends, as loved ones, only to sow destruction from the inside. But now you know the signs. Now you see what you once ignored. And once God opens your eyes, He does not intend for you to close them again. He does not reveal the truth for you to return to blindness. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5:11. When He warns you, it is your responsibility to listen. So what will you do now? Will you stay in a place where you are being drained, manipulated, deceived? Or will you trust that when God removes someone, it is always for your protection? Will you keep excusing their actions? Or will you finally accept what has been in front of you all along? This is not about anger. This is not about revenge. This is about obedience. God is calling you to step away from what is harming you. He is calling you to release what is no longer serving His purpose in your life. He is calling you to choose Him over toxic relationships. Because when you let go of what is draining you, you make room for what is meant to strengthen you. And that is what He wants for you. Not a life spent trapped in manipulation, deception, and exhaustion, but a life filled with peace, joy, and relationships that reflect His love. So today the choice is before you. Will you listen to the warnings, or will you ignore them? Because the truth is, God has already spoken. The question is, will you obey?